Evening, everyone. On behalf of Hyderabad Chartered Accountant Society, I extend a warm welcome to all our members and professional colleagues to today's session on navigating peer review readiness, key considerations, compliance, and practical implementation for CA practice units. Peer review has become an integral part of professional practice, and today's session aims to provide clarity on applicability, preparedness, scorecard, expectations, and practical implementation to help practice units approach the process with confidence. It is a privilege to have with us CA Kiran Parsa sir as today's speaker. He is a fellow chartered accountant with over 17 years of professional experience, a registered insolvency professional, and is empaneled as a peer reviewer with the Peer Review Board of ICAI. He also serves as a technical reviewer with the Finance Reporting Review Board of ICAI. With his extensive hands-on experience, we are confident that this session will be both insightful and practically relevant. Without further ado, I would like to invite Sir to share his insights. Over to you, sir.
First of all, thank you, Hyderabad Chartered Accountant as our society for giving this opportunity to share my views with you. Today's our session is mainly focusing on practice unit rather than peer review. Please, generally, the most of the seminars are focusing on how to do the peer review. Here, my focus is mainly from practice unit point of view. Particularly, the small firms are facing some difficulty right from the filling the application form till completion of the entire process. So what to do in a smooth way with confidence, how to get the peer review certificate, and what are the challenges and what are the issues that we are generally facing, including common mistakes we are doing, and what are the precautions we have to take from practice unit point of view we'll discuss today. I hope you understand the object of this particular session. Briefly, I'll explain everything from the practice unit point of view. First of all, in 2002, actually at in US, after so many scams, etc., and wrong scam, etc., they constituted public accountant oversight board. So that in USA, the public accountant oversight board is mainly like our what called NFRA, reviewing their whatever the certified public accounts, that is CPS. So that our institute has been thinking that why don't we review ourselves? Hence, in 2002 only, the peer review guidelines were issued and peer review is started. First of all, what is peer review? The review of work performed by one professional by another professional having similar standing, so that we are all belongs to same fraternity, and the work performed by one professional just only reviewed by another professional having similar same standard. So that hence never we consider the peer reviewer is superior and practice unit is subordinate. No, not like that one. And what is the main object of peer review? First and foremost, some practice units are fearing that anything, any non-compliances, weaknesses in our firm practices, etc., in documentation may leads to any disciplinary actions, etc. No, not at all. It was clearly stated that no findings made in the peer review is subject to disciplinary action. Please pay attention. The same is not applicable in case of quality review. Quality review is being performed by quality review board. That is an independent body. Even though our central council members are there in the quality review board, but the quality review, the technical reviewer who performed the quality review, based on that one, quality review board can take action against the members, not directly, but they can recommend for disciplinary actions. Whereas anything that was found during the peer review never should be sent to any disciplinary committee. Then what is the main objective of peer review? The main objective of peer review is only to identify whether the practice unit is having proper systems, including documentation systems, to strengthen our entire practice. rather than taking any disciplinary actions, rather than taking any identifying any isolated cases of any individual engagement failures. In fact, we are all human beings. There is a possibility of some errors even in our what you call audit systems, etc. So that identifying these isolated cases of individual engagement failures never will be the main objective of peer review. The main objective of peer review is only to strengthen the our documentation systems. One, and of course, enhancing the whatever the reliability and as well as acceptability of our reporting, audit reporting. Hence, the entire process of peer review is always applicable to the attest functions only. Any functions that are not covered by the attest functions is not at all subject to peer review. Best example, generally you know everything, but attest functions means what? In a simple words, whenever you generated urine, that will come under the attest function. The moment you generated urine, it is a test function, whether it is for audit report or for certificate, whether it is tax audit, statutory audit, or anything. The moment we generated urine means what? One level of assurance we are giving, whether it is absolute assurance or it may be reasonable assurance. Generally, for certificate, we are giving some absolute level, whereas in case of audit, we give reasonable assurance. The moment we generated urine means what? Yes, we have given a performed attest function. That will come under the peer review. Any advisory services, any representation before authorities, any other management consultancy services that are permitted by our institute is not at all subject to peer review. Is not at all subject to peer review. So the first and foremost is the main objective is whether practice units placed proper systems and procedures, including documentation systems. To review, of course, whether practice unit is being complied with ethical, technical, and professional standards as prescribed by ICA. Here only you have to pay attention whether practice unit is being complied with ethical, technical, and professional standards. Ethical standard means what? Mainly in peer review, SQC, standard on quality control. So the moment peer reviewer visited our firm, what they will ask, general, do you have SQC policy? And so first and foremost is what? The moment you are going for any peer review, you must have one SQC policy. That SQC policy, according to SQC1, general, we consider SQC1 as a mother standard. According to SQC policy, how we are planning and performing ethical standards and their implementation in our firm have to be documented. Please pay attention. Generally, we are doing practice in ethical way, but however, we must have one document. No documentation, no audit. Generally, the institute will consider the same. Hence, we need one SQC policy. That is ethical standard mainly. Technical means what? All compliance with the standards on auditing, compliance with the while you are planning and performing the audits, whether that particular our client has been planned and client has been complied with the all accounting standards or not, including Schedule 3 compliances, disclosure requirements. That is technical verification. And professional standards. Professional standards means what? Mainly as per our the first schedule and second schedule of our CA Act 1949, various do's and don'ts for the practicing CAs are there. So whether the same have been duly complied with. So the peer reviewer will review whether practice unit is complying with the ethical, technical, and professional standards. So that he may ask about your SQC policy, he may ask about how you complied with the standards on auditing. He also review your what are the audit files, etc. How you plan and performed your audit, whether the accounting standards and other disclosure requirement have been duly complied with by our client, that you are reviewed or not will be reviewed by the peer reviewer. And another important objective of peer review is whether proper training and education programs have been conducted. Of course, now continuous professional education programs is mandatory for us. Earlier, non-compliance is only notice will be given, whereas now, according to our revised guidelines of our ICA, non-compliance with the continuous professional education of minimum whatever the 20, 40 hours structured, unstructured, etc., may leads to even disciplinary action after, of course, a due course of time in accordance with the procedure. So that now it is mandatory, we are complying with our own continuous professional education. But actually, in our audit firm, who is performing the most of our audit, etc., whether it may our employee or articles, etc. So that it is the responsibility of the firm to conduct proper training and education programs to them. Hence, whether the same have been conducted or not will be reviewed by the peer reviewer. Hence, generally, most of the some mid-size and as well as big firms are conducting internal training program. Conducting training program and compulsory, you have to be document the same when training program conducted, etc. A register should be maintained, a proper record that also will be reviewed by the peer reviewer. Enhance the quality of report and increase the reliability of reports. So that the main objective of peer review is only to ensure that our practice unit have proper systems, including documentation systems, and whether a practice unit is being complied with the technical, ethical, and professional standards, whether the practice unit is conducting proper educational training programs, and of course, to enhance the reliability of our audit reports. And of course, whether the practice unit is complying with various guidelines issued by the ICA, including website and CPA hours, etc., also will be reviewed by the reviewer. Please focus on the same. Identification of isolated cases of individual engagement failure is not at all objective of peer review. Hence, there is a possibility of one or two what called individual engagement failures will be there. Hence, the entire peer review process is focusing on review of continuously for 3 financial years. Now, presently, the review period, we are in 2025-26. When the review is conducting 25-26, the peer reviewer will review the preceding 3 financial years. Preceding 3 financial years means what? 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. During these 3 years, whatever the evidence we generated will be reviewed by the peer reviewer during this year. Once this year April is also crossed, then automatically we will come under the 26-27. Then preceding financial years means what? 23 to 25, 25-26. So why 3 financial year records will be reviewed? Because there is a possibility of 1 or 2 isolated cases of some failures. Take one example, simple example. You have been appointed as a new statutory auditor of some X Limited during 22-23. You issued, let us assume, engagement letter after appointing the same, obtained the MRL first year. Second year, also you issued the engagement letter and obtained MRL. Third year, due to some reasons, etc., you did not obtain 1 or 2 external confirmation, which you were already obtained in the preceding 2 years. Now the peer reviewer cannot focus. 2 years you collected the external confirmation, whereas in third year, in respect of one particular client, you missed. Hence, we consider it is a what called a greater failure on part of you. Hence, we will qualify the report. No, that is not possible. If continuously 3 years never you issued engagement letter, continuously 3 years you never received any MRL, continuously 3 years you never obtain any external confirmation under SA 505, then reviewer may qualify the report. Hence, 1 or 2 individual engagement failure never will be taken as a serious either by the peer reviewer. Even if it is received by the peer reviewer, we can approach the board that it is an individual case of failure, but not the entire process. We have proper documentation system. In 1 or 2 engagement, there is a failure. Like this one, we can justify. Hence, the objective of peer review is always to ensure that our practice unit have proper documentation systems. Hence, 1 or 2 any cases of failure will not be considered as a serious either by reviewer or by the. What is the simple process and as well as the forms that are required? The process and as well as forms that are required. We'll discuss the same step by step. Generally, the entire process of peer review is time bound. As per the peer review guidelines 2002, the entire process of peer review has to be completed within a period of 21 days. Within a period of 21 days, entire process has to be completed. It is a time bound. Hence, I sincerely suggest before you are approaching for going for the peer review, necessary documentation and as well as form filling has to be done before sending the application, because once application is sent, then our process, whatever the period, will be commenced. Entire process we have to complete for the 21 days. Generally, how the process will be there. Practice unit has to send the application. The application in a prescribed form, form 1. The form 1 have mainly 3 parts. First part is application. Second part is SQC, mainly ethical standards. How our firm is complying with the ethical standards, a detailed questions will be given. That part 2 only contains nearly 6 subparts. In 6 subparts, different questionnaires will be given. All these questionnaires we have to give an answer. Most of the answers will be yes, no, like that one. And remaining how control policies will be, we have to be implemented in our firm, whether control policies is there or not, whether you have exclusive policies there or not. If yes, when it was revised last time, okay, what are the softwares that we are being used, how engagement quality control review is being performed, okay, UQCR, how you are performing, for what and what cases UQCR being performed. Like this one, a detailed questionnaire will be given. Part 1 is completely about the firm. Part 1 is about the firm means what, how many partners are there, their qualifications, their experience, when they joined, etc., and including our address, phone number, emails, etc. Generally, part 1 is routine. But here is also so many mistakes are generally our practice units are doing in form 1 itself, part 1 itself. Then part 3, also known as section C. Section C is only known as what? AQMM, Audit Quality Maturity Model. This was revised from last April. Earlier AQMM version 1 is there, whereas now presently AQMM version 2 is only applicable. First of all, is part C is mandatory. It is mandatory for only those practice unit who are performing listed company audits. In other words, if your firm is doing the listed company audits, then AQMM is mandatory. Whereas if at all you don't have any listed company audits, then filling and sending AQMM is not mandatory. But however, if you do AQMM, that is audit quality maturity model, if you do the same, AQMM is nothing but like a awarding marks based on our entire audit quality in our audit firm. What you have, what you does not have, like a softwares and as well as policies, procedures, we have to award some marks. Based on the marks, the reviewer will award a particular grade, level 1 firm, level 2 firm, level 3 firm, level 4 firm, like that one. General level 1 is lowest one, level 4 one is very excellent, highest one. So most of the firms will come under 2, 3, 4, like this one. Preferably 3 is very good, 4 is very excellent, 1 is not advisable. Of course, AQM is also earlier what is the level of your firm is not printed on the our peer review certificate. In the last 3 months before only, our peer review board has been declared that here onwards we are adding the AQMM level also in the peer review certificate. So that if you go for the peer review certificate and include the same in our peer review certificate, of course, that is also good thing. Earlier, it is not printed on our peer review certificate. Now onwards, it is printed on the peer review certificate also. So that presently, section C AQMM is not mandatory for all practice units unless you are doing listed company audits. Whereas if you are doing the listed company audit, which is mandatory. But I personally advise you may go through the AQMM, because if you go through the AQMM, you can identify what is your audit quality and you what are the areas that you can improve in the same, you can be identified. But if you are going for AQM, some additional fee has to be given to the peer reviewer, some 5,000 to 10,000 additional fee in addition to our regular peer review fee has to be payable. So the total 3 parts in Form 1. Form 1, Part 1 is about the firm particulars. Second part is about the completely standards on quality control, SQC, and other related standards. Third one is about the AQMM. Once we submitted this form 1 to the institute, duly filled and signed by the whatever the one of the signing partner, any one partner, need not be managing partner, who is taking care of the entire peer review process. He has to give his email, phone number, etc. in that form only, has to submit to the institute. Once we submitted our form 1, then generally institute will respond within a period of 3 days by providing three names of peer reviewer. Out of these three names, we have to select any one. Generally, we have to select the one who does not have any conflict of interest with our firm, such as he is not our principal, he is not our article in the previously, and he is not at all, he is not our client. Sometimes is what we may audit, tax audit of our colleague firms, etc. Not like that one should be. No conflict of interest. Once we select, the same will be intimated by us to the board, general within 1 day only. Once three names have been given, within 1 day, we have to be submit to the institute which one you have been selected as the peer reviewer. Then board will take the confirmation from the reviewer, whether you are interested or do you have any conflict of interest, etc. Once intimation is made by the board to the peer reviewer who has been selected by the practice unit, now the reviewer has to give his consent along with the declaration of confidentiality in Form 2. Please pay attention. These 6 forms are very important. Form 1, Form 2, Form 5, 6, 7, and 9. These are very much necessary while you are going for the practice unit, while you are going for the peer review. First, Form 1 is form of application we are sending. Form 2 is a declaration of confidentiality given by the peer reviewer to the practice unit. Then once he given, generally has to given within 1 day only. Actually 2 days from the date of receipt, etc. Now the peer review process will start. Once the peer reviewer has given in Form 2 his consent cum declaration, then immediately the practice unit has to give the Form 1 that originally we shared with the institute, have to be shared with the peer reviewer also. That Form 1 only contains a complete list of UDINs we generated. I'll show you the pro forma also, how to fill the Form 1 along with the UDIN annexure. That is the main difficult task presently facing by most of the practice units. How to fill this UDIN annexures, etc. I will show you the same in detail. The moment this duly filled Form 1 is received by the peer reviewer from practice unit, he has to conduct the off-site review. Off-site review means what? Or what are the total unions, who are the clients, etc., etc., along with their code numbers will be given. Then he will select from that particular list a list of samples. The sample selection is not at his discretion. The sample selection by the peer reviewer must be in accordance with the guidelines prescribed by the peer review board. Sample selection criteria is there. As per that criteria only, he has to select the samples. Generally, how sample criteria will be there, that also we should know. He should select the sample. Let us assume our practice unit having 3 branches, having 5 partners. Let us assume in 3 branches, our 5 partners are doing different types of practice, and you are performing, let us assume, tax audit, statutory audit, some revenue audit, stock audit, concurrent audit, and we are issuing different types of certificate like 15CB, Form 12B, sometimes trust audit, 10B, 10BB, like that. So the peer reviewer should select the samples in such a way that at least one sample should be selected from each branch. Some samples you should select from each partner. Let us assume one partner performed statutory audit, tax audit, issued some certificate. Hence, compulsory now reviewer has to select at least one statutory audit, one tax audit, one certificate. In such a way, that means what? At least one sample should be selected from each partner, each branch, and as well as each area wise. And of course, the minimum number of samples is also prescribed by the guidelines. Generally, is what if at all the firm having the listed company, minimum 5 listed company samples have to be selected. If it is less than 5, like only 4 listed company, all 4 should have to be taken. 100% population, not one here. Similarly, generally minimum 10 samples should be taken. Depend upon the turnover, 10, 15, 20, 25, up to 25 is also there. So if the turnover of the firm is less than 5 crores, generally minimum 10 is required. If it is 5 to 10 crores, then it is 15 is required. So the sample selection by the peer reviewer is also based on the sample selection criteria that is decided by the board. So that the moment we share the form 1, he has to select the samples. Then immediately within the 2 days, he has to give a form 5 to the practice unit. What is there in the form 5? Please understand, form 1 is application given by practice unit to the board. Form 2 is declaration of confidentiality given by the peer reviewer. Form 5. Form 5 is the list of samples he selected by the peer reviewer will be intimated to the practice unit. I have been selected these 10 samples, 15 samples, 20 samples, whatever it. And I'm planning to visit your practice unit physically. When he is going to issue, when he is going to visit the practice unit, he will intimate in this form 5. So that is what now the practice unit have generally some 4-5 days, etc., ready for the same. Now, most important, the sample that have been selected and mentioned in the form 5 is not the final one. During the on-site visit, if the reviewer has been considered that the sample selected by him is not adequate as per the sample selection criteria, or to ascertain whether the documentation system in the practice unit is effective or not, he may increase the sample. Of course, increasing the sample compulsory requires some mutual consent of the practice unit also, because suddenly if you ask, I want these samples, because this is not an inspection. With the mutual consent of the practice unit, he may increase the sample during the on-site review. After issuing the form 5, he will visit. How many days he has to visit? There is a timeline is also prescribed. Maximum 6 working days. Generally, 2 to 3 days is sufficient. Sometimes, of course, depend upon the firm, 1 or 2 days is also sufficient. Where the firm is bigger one and a number of branches and number of the samples is more, etc., he may take more than 3. But at any time, it should not be more than 6 working days. Whereas if the reviewer wants to extend his on-site review more than 6 days, he has to get approval from the board. So that the maximum period permissible is 6 working days. Now, after performing the on-site review, what a reviewer can do? Some peer reviewer practically also issuing the preliminary report. Preliminary report is not mandatory. He may issue, if at all he is satisfied that the practice unit have proper documentation system, etc., directly he can prepare the final report and submit to the board. No need to issue the preliminary report. Whereas if he found some deficiency, minor deficiencies, and consider the practice unit may rectify these, whatever the deficiencies, then he may issue the preliminary report listing out what are the deficiencies he found. Then generally within the 2 days, the practice unit has to give the reply. What steps they have been taken to rectify such whatever the minor deficiencies like this one. Then peer reviewer will issue final report to the board along with one copy to the practice unit. Compulsory has to share the practice unit the copy of final report. He cannot give what called in a secretly cover etc. directed to the board. Compulsory, the copy must be shared with the practice unit. Generally, practically most of the cases, they will give clean report. In case qualified report is given, what is the procedure? In case qualified report is given, then board may give additional time to the practice unit. Generally minimum 6 months and even sometimes up to 1 year. You may apply after the 6 months or after the 1 year. During the 6 months or 1 year, come on, whatever the deficiencies listed out by the peer reviewer, you should rectify the same. You should strengthen your documentation system so that you are ready for the same for the after 6 months like this one. Whereas if the direct report is given, let us assume once a peer reviewer submit the report at the board level, peer review board, generally some groups have been there, some employees, whatever it, they will review your form 1 along with part 1, part 2, etc. Udin annexate. And similarly, the peer reviewer also has to submit his final report along with annexure 1, annexure 2, annexure 3. Final report will have 3 annexures. Annexure 1, general information. Annexure 2, once again, complaints with the technical standards, whether the practice unit is complied with the various technical standards, is there or not, will be given. Annexure 3 is AQM. When you are submitted your form 1 along with the part C, that is AQMM, then annexure 3 is required. If you are not submitted part C, then annexure 3 is not required. Part C is submitted by the practice unit. Annexure 3 is submitted by the peer reviewer. If AQMM is not applicable, generally our application form call will contain only part A, part B. Similarly, the peer reviewer also will give final report, annexure 1 and annexure 2. Based on this one, they will review. Please here only how to pay attention. While filling the form 1, whether it is part A or part B, we have to take utmost care. After some time, I will give how to fill this form, what are the precautions have to be taken. I'll briefly explain the same. Whatever the information we are given in form 1 only, in a different language, they will ask the peer reviewer. If at all the information provided by us and the information provided by the peer reviewer having any inconsistencies, now the board will raise the query. Now most of the practice units are facing the queries mainly because of this one. We have given one information, whereas general first of all in our form 1, the information we shared sometimes is inconsistent with the records that are maintained by the institute. Let us assume we are having the 4 branches. However, the 4th branch is recently opened, but however, it is not updated in our ICA records. Whereas in the application, you are given 4 branches information, whereas account ICA records, only 3 branches are there. Automatically, board will ask, okay, as per our records, only 3 branches are there. Where is when you are opened this 4th branch, etc., etc., they will ask. Second inconsistency is the information provided by us. That means what practice unit is inconsistent with the information provided by the peer reviewer. Like when SQC policy is last updated, it is there in our part B of form 1. The same question they will ask in the annexure 2 of the peer reviewer. Annexure 2 to the final report, the peer reviewer have to mention, did you verify the SQC policy of the firm? He will say yes. When it was last updated, they will ask the question. Like this one, the every reply that we are given in form 1 in different language, they will ask in the annexure 1 and annexure 2 of the what called final report of peer reviewer. Hence, both reports should be carefully prepared, both the practice unit and as well as peer reviewer, so that without any queries, you will issue the automatically the peer review certificate will be issued. Next, after submitting the final report along with the due annexures, etc., all these one, then board will review the same. If any queries are there, they will ask. Then we have to give the reply the same. If the board is satisfied, then the peer review board in their periodical board meetings, etc., will approve our whatever the application. Then you will get one email. That means what your application has been approved with the so and so number, and generally validity is for a period of 3 years. Generally validity will be given for 3 years. So that after the 3 year, once again we have to go for the peer review without interrupting the continuation. Please pay attention in case your firm is a new firm. New firm means what? Existed for less than 1 year or generated less than some 5 units. In such cases, maximum validity of our peer review certificate is only 18 months. Physical peer review certificate will be shared to your address that is mentioned there. No soft copy of peer review certificate will be given. Only the hard copy only will be sent to our whatever the address that we mentioned in our application. No soft copy will be shared. To get the duplicate share certificate, a prescribed procedure is also there. Hence, care should be taken that the address that we are shared in our form 1 is accurate without any misstatement. Now, the entire process, that means what? Day 1 application to the peer review board till the submission of final report has to be completed within a period of 21 days. Within a period of 21 days. The important forms are, first one, form 1, that is application form. Form 2, that is declaration of confidentiality given by the reviewer to the practice unit. Form 5, the list of samples selected by the peer reviewer, which is shared with the practice unit. Then Form 6, during the on-site review or during the off-site review, if the reviewer has been observed any deficiencies, he may give the same to the practice unit in Form 6. These are the observations or deficiencies observed. Please correct or rectify, like this one he can issue. So Form 6 is nothing but during the review period. During the review period, he may ask some additional information through Form 6. Form 7. This is also most important. In case if that entire process is not completed within a period of 21 days due to whatever the reasons. Now, both the practice unit and as well as peer reviewer together has to sign and submit this Form 7 to the board. Seeking extension. We are unable to complete within a period of 21. Please give extension of some whatever the 1 week, 2 week, 4 weeks, whatever it. Then Form 7 has to be given. And another most important one, Form 9. Form 9 has to be submitted along with the final report. The Form 9 contents is nothing but like a covering letter. Yes, this peer review completed on so and so date, and we are submitting this final report along with the so and so annexures, like this one will be there. On the Form 9 also, both reviewer and as well as practice unit has to be signed. So major forms that is you must be remember and as well as relevant is Form 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 and as well as 9. Within 2 days from the date of appointment, Form 6 generally seeking the additional information. Preliminary report, issue of the preliminary report is not mandatory, but if the peer reviewer believed that some correction is required, etc., he may issue preliminary report. Once preliminary report is issued by the peer reviewer only to the practice unit, not to the board. Then practice unit will reply generally within a period of 2 days. Final report only he has to share with the board. Final report should be given. Covering letter is Form 9 along with Annexure 1 and 2. Annexure 3 is nothing but AQMM that is being filled by the peer reviewer. Overall time frame is what? 20 plus 1, 21 days. That means from date of application to till completion of final report, entire is has to be completed within a period of 21 days. If you want extension, you can make application in the Form 7. Now, before we are discussing about what are the key documents that should be keep ready before we are going for peer review, please ask any questions. If you have any questions, etc., please ask the same so that I can move forward. Our firm is less than 5 years, but hardly 15 units. Will PR will select all units? Yes. PR may select minimum generally samples, 10 samples he will select. 15 units you have to submit. If these 15 units are, let us assume, different one, then he may select all. For example, only 3 companies, you issued the 5 units each year, let us assume 15. Obviously, you will select all the 15 units as sample. Entire population will be selected as a sample. Since here number of samples is population, the sample selected has to be represented the entire population. Hence, he may select the entire 15 units. Even if it is less than, whether it is less than 1 year only, consider as a new unit. If it is more than 1 year, you will be considered as a the existing unit only, and you will get a 3 years peer review certificate also. Is the time frame of 6 days to review is enough? Yes. The actually it is not 6 days. The moment you shared the form 1, offsite review is started with a peer reviewer. That also 1 or 2 days will be there. Unless he done some offsite review, he cannot go for onsite review. 6 days is restricted for onsite review only, because he has to share what you call all TAs, and DAs has to be borne by the practice unit. It should not be burdensome on the practice unit. Hence, on-site review is only restricted for a period of 6 days. So, off-site review he can perform before and as well as after that one. Can a peer reviewer do continue peer review of same PU for 2 terms of 3 years? Generally, here peer reviewer has been selected by the practice unit out of the 3 names that is recommended by the practice unit, that is recommended by the board. From actually, there is no guideline restricting that peer reviewer cannot be the peer reviewer of the same firm continuously 2 terms of 3 years. But however, if it is being recommended by the board out of the 3 names, and the practice unit is also selected, it is not illegal. But at the same time, nowhere it is neither permitted nor prohibited. Now, I will share the form 1. While filling the form 1, what are the common mistakes generally the practice units are doing? And also, of course, I will give the whatever the how to fill the form 1 more error free. First and foremost is, before we are filling the form 1, please take your firm certificate, not firm card. Firm certificate as on last peer review period, last date of the peer review period. For example, now presently the peer review period is 2022 April 1st to 31st March 2025 for this one. So that you have to take the peer reviews, what called your firm certificate as on 31st March 2025. Based on that one only, you should fill the form. Because as I said, sometimes is what, as on 31st March 2025, we opened a new branch, but was not updated in our ICA records. Then as on 31st March, it is not there in the ICA records, you should not mention in the form 1. If you mentioned the same intimation, how to be given as on 31st March, it was not updated in our ICA records, but we opened a new branch. Similarly, one new partner is joined as on 31st March or next day, like that one. So as on the 31st March, whatever the 2025, in our firm certificate, if the new partner's name is included, then only we have to be mentioned in the entire form. So that the first and foremost document that we should be downloaded and as well as used while filling the form 1 is our form certificate. Now, please see here, form 1. What are the important areas that you need more focus? I'll explain. This is our, please pay attention, even the firm name, FRN also you should be written by according to the firm certificate only. Okay, strictly as per firm certificate only, you have to mention our firm name, FRN. We here, our firm, we are applying peer review. As it is mandatory by ICI, voluntary, as specified, reviewed, initiated by the board, new unit as per decision of the board. Generally, when you are applying for the first time, and if you are covered under the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, etc., as mandated by ICA. No, you are not covered, but voluntarily you are applying voluntarily. Once you completed one cycle, second cycle, third cycle, fourth cycle, must be your answer must be fifth one as per decision of the board. If at all, then this is most important. Third one, what are the types of audits attestation function that we performed? You have to be mentioned here clearly. That means what? Central statutory audit of what? Banks, insurance companies, or any manufacturing companies. If internal audit is there, please pay attention. Internal audit is there here. You have to mention only if you generated UDINs. If some internal auditor does not require any UDINs, etc., then it will not come here. So UDIN means what? Here you generated attestation, you performed the attestation function. So any information in this form 1 and entire peer review process only if UDIN is generated. No UDIN, no need to mention here. Similarly for tax audit, concurrent audit, certifications, etc., you have to be mentioned here for the nature of company wise here. If you are conducting any listed company audit, you have to mention yes here. Here, one more option is given to the practice unit. From where you prefer peer reviewer within your same city, because some small towns are there. In small towns, some 5 to 6 chartered accountants only practicing. They don't want to expose their practice to within the same city chartered accountant due to various reasons. For example, a small town like any town, then they can mention I prefer a practice unit from outside my city. If I am Hyderabad, I don't want a peer reviewer. In fact, in Hyderabad, more than 15,000 chartered accountants are there. We can select within the city only. No, but still, I am interested. My peer reviewer should be coming from some Guntur, etc. I can mention from outside city, Guntur or Bangalore, etc. From outside city, then in the fourth column, you have to mention from which city you are preferring. Okay. If you are in the same city, you have to mention here. Your mail ID, address, etc. Here, address only. While filling this address carefully, you have to be satisfied two things. First one is what? That address must be matched with ICA records. Second, that address must be active, alive, because they are sending the certificate to this address only. Generally, this 9, 8, 9, 10, all these are applicable only to the new units. New unit means what? Which is generally existed less than 1 year. Generally, the firm has to nominate, the practice unit has to nominate one of their partner as in charge for entire this peer review practice, peer review process. The partner's name, his mail ID, mobile number, you have to be mentioned. Then the person has to be signed along with his membership number. Same here, name of the practice unit as per the our firm certificate only have to mention. Next, if the firm have the branches, obviously you are seeking the peer review certification for both head office and as well as branches. The same should be mentioned here. Address, email, website, etc., etc. Then here the date of establishment. Once again, by seeing from your firm certificate only, you have to mention exact date of establishment. If your firm having any joined in any network of the, whether it is national or international networks of firms, the same details have to be mentioned in form 8. Is question number 8. Now, period of assurance services under review. Which period you are seeking the peer review? As I said, now we are in 25-26. So that our peer review is till 31st March 2025. Hence 21st April 2022 to 31st March 2025. Same contact person details, etc. Now, this is most important, 11th one. The complete details of your partners. The name of the sole proprietor partner one by one. His membership number. Association with the firm. Because he is having 10 years of whatever the practice, out of which he is associated with the firm 5 years only. So you have to mention 5 years. Any post qualifications. Professional experience. Whereas he has 10 years of professional practice, that you have to be mentioned. And here this point is very much care should be taken for filling this one. Because so many cases the peer review board has raised the queries on this one. Because here we mentioned the predominant function means what? Generally we mentioned audit, tax, consulting, like this one we mentioned. But actually one of the partner for which we mentioned audit, tax, consulting, but he never generated a UDIN. Because in our firm also all partners need not share what called generate the UDINs. Some are purely engaging in the consulting only. When you are not generated the UDIN, don't put audit and tax here, only consulting. Sometimes is what no tax audit, only statutory audit. In such cases, you have to mention only audit and consulting. Hence, while filling this, whatever the column, care should be taken. That is, what are the types of UDINs we generated? What are the test function we performed during the review period? That only you have to mention. Otherwise, they may raise the question. Then when they joined, when they left, any new partner. Next, any paid employees, etc. Is there paid chartered accountant employees? That details you have to be mentioned. Similarly, other employees, semi-qualified articles. Here, the articles you must be, as per our ICA records, only you have to be mentioned as on 31st March 2025 in case of present peer review period. Next, if you have any branch office, the complete details you have to be mentioned. Serial number, how many branches are there, who is the in charge of that particular branch, number of staff, membership number of that particular in charge, address of the branch. Once again, here while you are filling this address, the address must be matched with the our form certificate. Whether assurance services are rendered. This only once again very important. Sometimes is what we have 2-3 branches, but most of the attestation function is performed from head office only. But by mistake here, assurance services rendered means what you mentioned, yes. Then the UDIN annexure must contain the details of the whatever the in which branch you have been rendered the attestation functions, you have to be mentioned in the UDIN annexure. Hence, this must be compared with the UDIN annexure. If you mentioned yes here, in the UDIN annexure also, it must reflect the same. Whereas in the UDIN annexure, all UDINs are generated from head office only. Then here you have to be mentioned no only. So whether the answer is yes or no is linked with the UDIN annexure. Hence, care should be taken while filling this particular column. Next, how control procedures are being followed by the branches. I personally observed many practice unit could not fill this column properly. This answer has to be given, the reply to this question has to be given in accordance with the SQC policy of the firm. What is your SQC policy? That in that SQC policy, you have to mention how we are complying with the quality, ethics, etc. Our head office generally monitor our branch activities at periodic intervals, like once in a annually, quarterly, half yearly, etc. We generally select some samples from our branches, how they have been complied with the technical, ethical, professional standard while performing attest functions. Like this one, some control procedures must be there in every practice unit in accordance with their SQC policy. That they are asking. What are the control procedures being followed by the branch, followed by head office on their branches means what here you have to mention according to your SQC policy. Any sample testing of clients handled by the branches is done by head office, and generally we have to mention it, yes. Next here purely this column is for the purpose of fixation of peer reviewer fee. The peer reviewer fee is being paid by the practice unit, but how much fee has to be payable is prescribed by the our board. The board has issued a set of whatever the table of payment of fee based on the total annual turnover of the firm. Annual turnover of the firm is also here two types. Gross turnover, turnover from only attest functions. You can select either one. For example, out of your total gross receipts, some 50%, less than 50% is only coming from attest functions. Majority of your gross receipts are for consulting, representation. Then you can choose the first one. Because the peer reviewer fee has to be payable based on the gross receipts from the attest functions only. So you need, for example, total turnover is 5 crores. Out of this one, 3 crores are only from the consulting. Only 2 crores are coming from the attest functions. Then you have to be mentioned only 2 crores in the below column. No, first of all, there is no bifurcation or the entire amount is collected from the attestation function only. Then you can write here only this one. Okay. Your peer reviewer fee is based on the gross receipts of the practice units from the attest functions only. Next, 17th point is also important. Why it is important is also I'll explain. Here what you have to mention. Particularly in case of small firms, they are sometimes majorly depend on one or two single client, because we are rendering various functions, various services to one big client. Like accounting service, generally we will not do accounting and art service, but in practice may be different. When you are doing different type of consulting services, etc., we charge the different fee. Let us assume this year the turnover of that particular firm is 50 lakhs. Out of the 50 lakhs, let us assume 20%, 20 lakhs is coming from one single client only. Then the details of that single client you have to be mentioned. Here the percentage they mentioned is 15%. Out of your total revenue, let us assume 1 crore is our revenue this year. 15 lakhs and above is coming from any single client. The names of that client have to be mentioned. Why? Once again, it is linked with our SQC1. Independence. When we are dependent on one single client, automatically it will affect our independence. Automatically it will affect our independence. Hence is what obviously various threats are there. Intimidation threats, self-interest threats, etc., etc. So that now we cannot give our report independently. Obviously, we have the fear that we may lose the client. Hence, the moment our independence is compromised, automatically the quality, ethical, professional, everything will be compromised. That is the reason the institute is asking information. Do you have any concentration of fee from a single client? 15%, no problem. 20, 30 is also no problem. Actually, if it is more than 40% coming from single client, if at all you are mentioned that continuously 3 years, 45% from one single client, then it is very difficult. Reason. If at all we are receiving the fee that is representing more than 40% of our gross receipt from a single client, then we have to be submit a declaration and give intimation to the institute. What I am rendering service, etc. My independence, etc. is not affected. Like this one, we have to intimate first of all to the institute. The moment out of our total fee, 40% is coming from a single client. Okay. Hence, care should be taken that ensure that one single client, the total receipts is not more than 40%. If yes, you have to be intimate to the institute. If it is 15%, only you have to disclose here. Okay. Year wise total gas is what is the percentage, how much percentage, like 21, 22, 23, like this one you have to mention. Similarly, if the practice unit is what called complied with any performed any self-evaluation as per a digital competency maturity model, then they have to mention. If yes, the date you have to mention. If you are already performed peer review earlier, the certificate you have to mention here. Any guilty of professional misconduct by any partner, etc., the case, etc., all these case number, all these details you have to mention. Most important, 21. If your firm obtained any professional work through the process of open tendering, then the same you have to be mentioned here. Once you mentioned that this work, we obtained the work through process of tendering, like that one, and you have to mention the name of the client also here. Let us assume XYZ Limited work has been obtained through process of tendering, like this one we have to mention. Then board will verify whether the XYZ Limited has been taken as a sample by the peer reviewer. Because any work obtained through the process of tendering compulsory has to be reviewed by, first of all, you have to be mentioned in our UD list, this work is obtained through tendering. Then reviewer has to be verified whether the same has been selected as a sample. And the reviewer also, what he has to be compulsory verify is whenever you are obtained the work through the process of tendering, generally we present a financial bid. Most of the cases, to get the process of tendering, etc., we may quote some minimum fee like this one. But care should be taken, the fee that we quoted in the tender should not inconsistent with the minimum scale of fee prescribed by the ICA. You know it very well. The ICA has been prescribed the minimum scale of fee for various on hourly basis. For example, if a statutory audit is being performed, generally for one visit, etc., minimum 18,000 like this one, you have to be collected for each partner. For article correct, some so and so hourly fee has been prescribed. So that based on that one, you presented the tender randomly, or this tender has been presented based on the minimum scale of fee as prescribed by the ICA and prepared the cost sheet. So peer reviewer generally has to ask, please show the cost sheet, how you presented this financial bit. And that cost sheet must be in compliance with the minimum scale of fee prescribed by the ICA. And same, this is in part 1. In part 2, there is one more question is there. I'll show you. Whether anytime you have been charged the fee lesser than minimum prescribed fee. Generally, how to be mentioned? No, we have, please see here. Has the PU received fee from a client below the minimum scale of fee recommended for audit assignment by the ICA? General here is what practically most of our practice units are charging the fee lesser than the prescribed fee. But if you mentioned the yes, you have to justify to the peer reviewer. If you mentioned here no, yes, I charged the fee lesser than the minimum prescribed fee, then you have to give reasons below. On what grounds, how you are justify yourself that you charged the fee lesser than the minimum. Okay. Please don't give justification that to get the client, etc. You have to be justified. That means what? Based on the client request during the COVID period or during the what called market crash period, etc. Like this one, any justification you can give the same. And please pay attention. Party A they mentioned, Party B they mentioned. The same is also mentioned in the Party C. Party C is what? AQM. In the AQM, the given marks will be given. If you are charge the fee according to minimum scale of fee, higher marks. Lesser than the minimum scale of fee, obviously lower marks. Okay, one way. Here, when you mentioned your answer is, there you have to mention what the full score has to be given. Okay, please pay attention here. Every question in Party A, Party B, Party C, which is filled by the practice unit. Then Annexure 1, Annexure 2, Annexure 3, that is being filled by the peer reviewer. All are interconnected. By mistake, if you mention one yes and another, if you mention another, same will be immediately picked by the peer review board. So that in way your answer given in one reply is inconsistent with the reply given for the another question. Justify your answer. Hence, care should be taken while filling this both form 1 and as well as form 2. Now, after this one, through process of tendering, and any client that has been obtained through the process of tendering must be selected by the peer reviewer as sample, mandatory. Now this Annexure A is most important. This is a complete list of your UDINs must be given in this Annexure A. The complete list of UDINs you have to be given in this prescribed format. Before I am discussing about this Annexure A, once again, before I am discussing about the Annexure A, which is very important one, most of the practice units are committing the mistakes there only. Now I will give some answers to the question given. One, the colleague has been raised the question. Our firm have two partners now. Till financial year 23-24, firm has two partners. One passed away, other left. Existing partner joined after them. Those evidence also to be taken for consideration of now. Please pay attention here. We are doing peer review for firm. There is a period. As I said, when you are applying the peer review for today, the peer review period is 22 April 1st to 31st March 2025. During this 3 years period, all the partners means what? The partners who joined, who left, who passed away. The whatever they generated during these 3 years in firm name has to be taken, has to be first of all included in this annexure A, and the reviewer will select the sample. So all evidence generated by the firm by all partners during that review period has to be included. For example, one partner served in 1 year, passed away. Yes, his evidence have to be included. One partner joined, retired, or whatever they resigned, one year has to be included. And any partner who joined after 31st March 2025 need not be included because he is not no more a partner during the review period. So during the review period, any evidence generated that has to be included. Here, most important, 22 April 1st to 25 31st March. I am using the word UDIN. I am not using the word audit or certification, etc. In the annexure A, you have to be present the evidence generated during the review period only, not audits, not certificates. That means what here? Audit period may be different. Here you have to be given only UDIN period. Audit period means what? For example, there is an audit in 2018-19 audit. He approached us in 24. He approached in 2024, saying that I want to conduct the audit. Okay, no problem. We'll do the audit. Okay. How he is going to be apply for, how he is going to file with ROC is immaterial for us. He is asking the review of the audit of some 3 years before whatever the audit. Now, yes, we'll do the same. Now that also will cover here. That means what? When the audit is performed is not the matter. When UDIN is generated, that only matter. So in 22 April 1st to 25th March 31st, whatever the UDINs you generated, that only have to be included here. That audit maybe belongs to the previous year or 4 years before, that is immaterial. So here UDIN only, UDIN list only, here UDIN annex. Okay. Exactly from which event day one peer review starts. Selection of peer reviewer or when SPU send from 1 to ICA peer review. Please guide. Actually, as per the guidelines, the application stage only will be considered as the day one. Application stage only. But practically, strictly speaking, they will take from selection of when they will send one mail. From that date only, they will count. But according to the guidelines, they mentioned the moment you made an application, that is day one. But why the board is also not selecting the same means? For example, last December. The last December, there is the firm having 3 or more partners compulsory has to complete their peer review process by 31st March 2025. They given whatever the mandate. Later, it was whatever the deferred for the next 31st March 2026. Board has received numerous applications, thousands of applications across the country. Within a period of 3 days. But I personally observed from many of my whatever the consultant from CA firms, etc. They said we did not receive 1 week, 10 days also. Okay. Then it is obviously they're not compliant with. But actually 21 days has to be counted legally as per the guidelines the moment you made application to the board. Please pay attention, entire process you have to be done through emails only. Next, if after practicing it got peer review, if any merged any entity and set as branch, will peer review certificate applicable to that branch as well, or it again need to go for peer review for branch. If any new firm has been merged for that branch, you have to be applied afresh. But whereas if as long as your firm the main firm name is not changing the same, then automatically this particular only will be continued. Okay, but for new branch, if at all opened, it is new branch is merged, new branch is opened by the same firm, no problem. Whereas if the new branch is merged, then the firm's peer review certificate is not deemed to be applicable. Next, can peer reviewer ask more or less fees than recommended fee as said by the peer review board? Minimum scale of fee they only mentioned. Then bargaining lesser than the same, generally not possible. Can you ask more? In that guidelines only it is they mentioned this is minimum scale of fee. Whether to give more or less is purely based on mutual understanding between the firm and as well as practice unit. But he cannot demand more than that. If he demanded, it is up to the practice unit only whether to offer or not to offer. But the TADA has to be given by the practice unit to the peer reviewer. That also not prescribed. Only institute has been mentioned as mutually agreed. Okay. So that general practice is what as a minimum scale of fee general will be offered. No excess fee is generally offered. But as any excess amount can be given as a TADA as mutually agreed. Okay. But he cannot demand. The firm cannot be what called obliged to pay the same. If more than 40% of PU's total gross receipts received as statutory bank audit fee, in this is can you file the declaration? Yes, if from single client, if you are depend on more than 40%, you have to be submit declaration. But generally, continuously, more than 3 years, you are receiving from the same bank more than 40%, then you have to file the declaration. Okay. Single client continuously more than 40%, then only this is applicable. You give UDIN list for the total peer review period or last year is enough. No, no, no. This is only most important. I'm going to be given very clarity. The PU has to given the all UDINs generated. All UDINs generated by all partners in the name of firm for the peer review period. Peer review period means what? 3 years period. This only most important. Practically, I also observed in the initial stages. Initial stage means what in 2021 during the what called COVID period, etc. Some of our practice units does not mention client name in the while generating the evidence. General last column is there where you can mention which is not a disclosure, etc. Client name. The problem is what they given one certificate. Nowhere it is mentioned client name. Generally, as per our SQC policy, you have to be maintained a client register for every service rendered. They don't have the proper client register. No Excel sheet is also maintained. Now they have a difficulty. 3,000 UDINs are generated by the firm. However, for 300, 400 nearly UDINs, they don't know to whom they have given. Mainly certificates. Audits somehow through PAN number they can identify. Okay. Then it is difficult. Hence, compulsory, it is a personal advice. You must mention the client name in the last column while you generating the UDIN. Next, as per SQC policy, you must maintain the client register where all these details you have to be maintained. Okay. And whether to give all UDINs means what entire all UDINs has to be submitted to the board in a prescribed format. How to be given, I will explain now. The application should be submitted only through email, peerreviewboard@ICA.in. The entire communication, you are sending the application, the peer reviewer submitting the final report, everything communication is only through email, one single mail ID, peerreviewboard@ICA.in. Practice units which propose to undertake audits of branches of public sector banks. For these practice units, there is a prerequisite of having peer review certificate for above case. Audit means all audits, concurrent, staff, or any statutory audit. Yes, here audit means what all types of attest function. Here not only audit, even when you given certificate also, even if you given the certificate also, you need to get the same. Here, so that when you does not require the peer review certificate or pure consulting service, the moment you generated the UDIN, whether it is for stock audit or it may be revenue audit or for whatever the audit, then you need to get the peer review certificate. Of course, now that has differed up to 31st December 2026. Now, most important, where most of the practice units are facing difficulty, I am sharing this information. PU already have a peer review certificate valid till June 2026. When should PU make application or wait for the peer review board to send a communication? When your existing peer review certificate is expiring June 2026, you can make application anytime 6 months before the expiry date. That means what? From January 1st, 2026 to whatever the up to June, you can make application anytime. Okay. Generally 3 months before you can start the process. Okay. You need not wait, because in the June only you make the application, entire process if we expire, and they if they given from July, unnecessarily some interruption will be there. So if you want to continue uninterrupted whatever the peer review of your firm, it's a peer review certified firm, generally the institute guidelines saying that you can make application 6 months before expiry of the same. Okay. So that 6 months is maximum. You can make 5 months before, 3 months before, etc. Preferably 3 months before is good. Yeah. In class 22, turnover, borrowings, net worth of which area have to be written, whether last financial year peer review period or 3. This is only I am explaining the same. Please listen carefully. Yes, everyone listening, please communicate. Yes. At least in the chat, please mention the same yes or no, so that I will continue effectively. Okay, thank you. Now, this is UDIN annexure. This UDIN annexure is nothing but in the clause 22 of our form 1. Since the entire letter, some forms are having the 1000, 2000 UDINs also. So filling in the same word, the form 1 is what in MS Word. So generally in that MS Word, filling of this much of details is practically not possible. Hence, you can mention in the annexure A of that form 1 as per UDIN annexure, UDIN annexure attached. And you can be submit at the last of our application this UDIN annexure. Okay. This is most important while filling. Please pay attention. This type of submission is applicable only from after 2022. So those practice units which have been completed their peer reviews even before 2022, they don't have knowledge of all this one. Hence is what even 3 times, 4 times cycles completed peer review forms is also submitted this time with the erroneous application, because they did not given in this manner. Now you have to submit your application along with this UDIN annexure in this prescribed format only. Now I will detailedly explain how to fill this UDIN annexure. Okay. First, serial number. Generally, entire UDINs. Please pay attention here. What UDIN? UDIN is important. When you conducted the audit, when you issued the certificate is immaterial. When you generated UDIN only has to be given. Now, this is only a dummy UDIN generated for the purpose of only the discussion. This is not actual clients, all this one. Now, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. 3 years review period. Okay. This 3 years is applicable when you are going for application now. Now means what? Between 25th April 1st to 26th, 31st March, before 31st March 2026, if you are making application, then your review period is this one. Once our April 1st is started, 2026 April 1st started, automatically the review period will become 23, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 26. Okay. Now, code number. What is this code number? I'll explain later. Name of the client. Here, the name of the client means what? To whom you are given UDIN. Here, while filling this one, care should be taken that the name must be accurate. Accurate means what? Don't write like ABC Limited. If the name is complete one, please write complete one. That means what? No abbreviations, etc. And similarly, Karur Vaisya Bank Limited. So that if you are given any evidence to the Karur Vysya Bank, whether it is statutory audit or what you call the concurrent or whatever it, then you have to be mentioned Karur Vysya Bank only. Because generally, if you given this work to our articles, what they will do for one time Karur Vysya Bank, another way KVB Limited, another way Karur VB Limited, like this one. Please don't use the same. Only one name accurately, uniformly has to be present. Why uniformly? Because the reviewer may take Karur Vysya Bank Limited as a what called a single sample. If you given as a KVB one time, KV Bank Limited one time, like this one, for the same client, he may take 4 samples, but actually it is only one sample. Hence, the client name only has to be appear, full name uniformly. Name of the client. Name of the branch head office. Here, name of the branch of head office of what? The practice unit head office and branch. That means what? Not the client branch head office, etc. It is our branch. That means what? If you are having only one head office, obviously only one head office. If you have any branches, from where unit generated to that office. Please pay attention. In Form 1, in the class 11, etc., we mentioned details of branches. In the details of branches, etc., in the last column, we mentioned what? Whether any attestation function has been performed at your branch level. If we mentioned yes, here compulsory from the branch level evidence details has to be submitted. If we mentioned no, it should not be appear here. Please pay attention. There is a link between the information we submitted in somewhere in our application and UDIN annexed. So that here the branch of the firm or head office of the firm only have to be mentioned. Next, name of the signing partner. Whoever the name signing partner, his name has to be mentioned uniformly same. Now, financial year 23, 24, 24, 25, etc. Please pay attention. Here, you have to given the details of all the 3 years. How you have to be given? Preferably, first you take all UDIN's list for financial year 22, 23 and fill it. Then go for 23, 24 of all the 23, 24 entire financial year, all UDINs and fill this. Then you go for last year, fill it. So that here, preferably while filling the UDIN list, while preparing the UDIN list, first you complete 1 year, then you go for another year, then you go for another year. One of our friend has been raised the question, the turnover net worth borrowings of which year you have to be mentioned? You have to be mentioned for all years. First complete this year, then complete this year, then complete this year. So that at a time, these 3 columns will not appear. First this column, then next this column, then third column, like that one. Okay. After completing this one, then you may, by using the pivot table, etc., you may be consolidate. That is next one. Okay. So that here is what at a time, 1 year only you have to be given. Next, whether engagement quality review done. What you have to be answered. Hope you know in detail whether engagement, what is engagement quality review. For any of our friends, etc., I'll just give. EQCR, general, what you call engagement quality control review is very much mandatory if your practice unit is performing the listed company audit. What is engagement quality review means? In our firm, some 10 partners are there. Okay, 5 partners are there. I performed one listed company audit. I completed the audit. Report is also prepared, not submitted. Report is also prepared. After preparation of report and before submission of the same to the client. Now the entire work performed by me as per SQC1 will be reviewed by my another senior partner who is having the adequate knowledge about the entire process of audit of this particular client. He will review. This is what you call engagement quality control review. That has to be documented, properly documented according to SQC1, how the planning has been made, how performance has been made, how minutes have been prepared, etc. That's engagement quality control review, which is mandatory according to SQC1 for all listed company, and in fact, which is also necessary for other company audit, statutory audits. Sir, generally, the work performed by my whatever the one partner automatically reviewed by my managing partner or by myself, like this one. Please pay attention. Already in one form or other, engagement quality is being reviewed, is being done by the one partner on the other partner, but that is not sufficient unless it is documented. The engagement quality control review done has to be documented properly. Okay. So that if it is done, you have to mention yes. If not, no. But quality peer review board may raise the query if you mentioned the entire answer is no. Why there is no proper documentation system? The engagement quality review done is not there, so that they may raise the query. So that friendly advice is you make a minimum documentation at least, and you mentioned yes for all statutory audits. Certificates, etc., you may ignore. But for statutory audit, particularly, you have to mention yes. Please pay attention once again in Form 1, they asked that question also. Whether engagement quality control is done, etc. If yes, for what type of audits you done. If you mention there yes, you have to mention here. For example, there if you mention for stock audits, etc., we do engagement quality control review, yes, and if you mention here also, you have to mention yes. But preferably, there must be a proper engagement quality review process. That means what work performed by one partner should be reviewed by another partner, at least for statutory audits. That is advisable and it has to be recommended mandatory also. Now, turnover net worth borrowings. Practical point of view, if you see, when you are giving some visa certificates, etc., sometimes we that particular certificate does not have the proper figures also. In such cases, what for audit you compulsory mentioned the turnover, net worth, and borrowing figures. Of course, if borrowings is there, then you mention. Otherwise, no problem. Simply one single dash is enough. Hyphen is enough. Net worth, turnover. So the turnover figures you must mandatorily mention for all types of audits. Certificates if available, okay, you mention. Otherwise, you simply one hyphen is sufficient. Similarly, net worth also, borrowings also. Okay. For audits, don't put blank figures. Because once we done statutory tax audit means what obviously we have the complete information about the turnover, net worth, borrowings, at least one or two, whatever available, that information you have to mention. Certificate you may take the choice. Okay. And whatever the figures you have to be mentioned in lakhs or absolute figures, but uniformly same. In turnover lakhs, in net worth crores, borrowings, absolute figures, no. Anything uniformly you have to be present the same. Okay. Because practically I observed some clients have been one practice unit have been turnover negative figures. Ensure that no such negative figures are there. Net worth you may have negative figures, but not here. Okay, borrowings like this one. Now, most important code numbers. Let us assume 1000 UDINs have been generated by the practice unit during the review period of 3 years. For this 1000 clients, or 1000 client means what 1000 UDINs. Each UDIN we consider as a one client. For this 1000 UDINs, we have to be assigned one code number. Because code number is what tomorrow any further discussion or any further communication between the peer reviewer, practice unit, peer reviewer, the peer review board and practice unit, any communication among these three, directly, indirectly, etc., is not directly in the name of the client, only in the code number wise. A4, A5, please mention so and so. Like this one, the board will ask the question. They will not mention, generally, most of the cases, name of the client they mentioned, they will ask only code numbers. Okay. How we have to assign these code numbers, I'll explain. Okay. Before that one more information here. While filling this information, highest turnover client for whom we render the statutory audit, you have to be quote here. Yes, he is highest our turnover client, like that. Similarly, any client to whom you have been mentioned or called obtained through process of tender also, you have to quote here. Yes, this client has been obtained through tender. Like this you mentioned. Please, this is the Excel sheet is the form as prescribed by the board. This is not for my convenience. Please pay attention. This is strictly as per the guidelines of the board only prepared. Nowhere it is required the UDIN numbers. Please pay attention. This entire annexure is prepared based on the UDINs. But however, UDIN annexure need not be mentioned. UDIN numbers you need not be mentioned anywhere. Okay. Now, the last most important, how to assign code numbers. Now, once again, we will this annexure only I convert into that Excel for our convenience. Now, see here how we have to assign code number to our clients. If at all you generated the UDIN for any bank or insurance company, then you have to be assigned code numbers in the A series. For example, for Karur Vysya Bank, I rendered concurrent audit for during these 3 years, 100 UDINs, let us assume. Then how I have to be given A1, A2, A3, A4 till A100. So that like this one for Union Bank, I have rendered some statutory audit. So A101, A102, A103, like this one. So for any bank or insurance company rendered by the firm during this period of 3 years, the code number must be in the A series only. So bank or insurance company, what, whether it is concurrent audit, statutory audit, certificate, for any bank or insurance company come under the A category only. So for all banks, A1 to A100, A100, 105, up to like this one till end. Next, if your client list contain NBFC, non-banking financial companies, then you have to be given B series. For NBFCs, like any Cholamandalam or what called any Muthoot Finance, like this one, any NBFCs, you are rendering any type of audit, any attestation function you didn't given, then it should be under the B category, B1, B2, B3, B4, like that one. Next, any public sector undertaking having a turnover more than 250 crores, etc., then C category. Then if your company, if your practice unit having listed companies, D should be given. D1, D2, D3, all D code is for the listed companies. Any asset management company, mutual funds, etc., E category. Then some private companies, which is not listed, of course, not possible to list also, of course, which is come under the Ind AS. Then you have to be allot F category. F codes should be given for the those clients which have been prepared their financials on Ind AS basis. F. Any public interest organizations, G1. And please pay attention. Once one company we selected in one code, entire UDINs generated should be come under their own. For example, XYZ Limited is a listed company. Generally, listed company will take the D code. That listed company obviously will prepare their financials based on Ind AS. Then once again, you need not take under the F. Once you take an XYZ Limited, D means what? Now all units generated for XYZ Limited will come under the D only. Here you need not consider. If it is a not listed company but preparing financials based on Ind AS, then only you take the F category. Similarly, any financial institutions having the any company taken from financial institution more than 50 crores loans, etc., will come under H. Any public sector undertaking having what called taken funded from central government more than 50 crores will come under I. Any other company having what called net worth more than 100 crores, turnover 250 crores will come under J. Any other will come under K. Generally, small firms will have A and K only. A means what? All banks, concurrent, etc., will come under A. Here, remaining all will come under K. Here only out. I think you understand all. So this code numbers is based on our client categorization. Based on our client categorization, you have to be given the code numbers. A category for the banks, D category for listed company, F category for Ind AS based financials client, and as well as K is for any other. Will come under the K. Even individuals, firms, tax audit, certificate, everything will come under now K. Now see here. Let us assume during these 3 years, our firm generated 1000 units. Out of this 100 is banks. Let us assume 100 is for listed company, remaining 800 for all other. So that A1, A2, A3, etc. for 100. Next D1 to D up to 100. Then at last K1 to K800. Like this one, code numbers will be A, K, A, D, K will be given. Then serial number 1 to 1000. So A plus D plus K is equal to the total serial number. And most important, unless the UDIN is revoked, please include every UDIN here, because the peer review board obviously have the access to our the UDINs. The moment you submitted the form 1, they will verify this form generated during this review period, how many UDINs. So that actual 1000 UDINs are given, you submitted in the form 1 only 100 UDINs. Automatically they will raise the question. Please give complete list of UDINs, partner wise, so and so, like this one big, what are the query they will raise. Hence, please give one or two missing, okay, no problem. But entire UDINs generated by the firm during the review period by all partners should be submitted in the form along with their code numbers. If you submitted this UDIN only, generally reviewer is also able to pick the samples from this particular UDIN annexure. Okay. What are the key documents you should be keep ready before firm is applying for the form 1? That is form certificate. Generally, firm registration certificate, constitution documents. Mainly, as I said, form certificate along with your constitution. SQC policy, which is mandatory. Audit manual. Generally, for each client wise, major client wise, audit planning memorandum, independence declarations, ethical compliances, engagement acceptance continuous records, and most important, according to what called SA 215, 220, etc., risk assessment, whatever the audit planning, audit program, risk assessment, SA 230, all these one you should be prepared. Working papers and as well as the other working papers here includes any UQCR documents also. Any communication between the auditor and as well as those charged with the governance under SA 260, 265, those communication. And of course, vision documents, all this one. Of course, best practices for smooth peer review to complete the same. Always you must mention, you must have the SQC policy. Also in that SQC policy, you must mention when it was last updated. When it was last updated also. So that updated SQC policy. Of course, the whatever we discuss about various whatever independent declaration, audit planning memorandum, all these one, you should have one templates. That ready-made templates also you should maintain. When the periodical internal file reviews have been made as per SQC1 also you have to be mentioned. Okay. Next, most important, our concluding remarks. The entire process of peer review in the beginning itself I mentioned is not to identify any isolated cases of individual engagement failures. It is only to strengthen our systems. It is only to ensure that the practice unit is maintaining adequate amount of documentation and ensure that the entire process of peer review will enhance the quality of our reporting. And of course, the client is also will enhance the reliability of our reporting. Okay. I hope that you have understand the entire process of peer review. Now, once again, I will go through the question and answer section. Is EQCR applicable for subsidiary of listed company? For listed company, it is mandatory. For subsidiary, it is recommendatory. But whether it is mandatory or not, once again, it is depend on your SQC policy. General, as I said, every firm have their SQC policy. In the SQC policy, you have to mention for which, and in fact, in form 1 also you have to mention for which type of entity we are going for EQCR. So it is preferably for every statutory audit, there should be a process of EQCR in our firm. That is in accordance with our SQC1. But according to the law, according to SEBI guidelines, EQCR is mandatory. Okay. According to SQC policy, the firm has to decide which audit should be subject to the SQC. Which audit should be subject to the EQC. But preferably, all statutory audits should come under the purview of EQC. Then it is indicating that your firm is maintaining highest standard of quality. For unlisted company also EQCR is required. Yes, as I said, for it depend on complexity, etc., all these one. For all 3 years to be, you have to mention turnover. Already, of course, I disclosed in our Excel sheet. I think your answer might be clear. Is peer review certificate mandatory for accepting bank concurrent audit too? Actually, in the phase 3, they mentioned bank branch audit. They did not mention concurrent audit. But if your partners are 3 or more, then mandatory you have to be get the peer review certificate. Next, for concurrent audit also peer review mandatory. Nowhere it is mentioned. Bank branch statutory right only it is mentioned. That is of course now date is deferred up to 31st December. But please pay attention. Giving concurrent audit is a discretion depend upon the bank. Tomorrow the bank may also put a condition. Okay, only we will give the work to the peer reviewed firms only. To avoid the same, we advise personally also go for the peer review. Okay, it is a smooth process. You can complete the same. Okay. How sole proprietor will comply with UQCR? Good question. In the SQC1 document, Implementation Guide to Standard on Quality Control 1, they mention in case of sole proprietor, he is only considered as a quality partner. So that you have two options. One, you can claim exemption that I am sole proprietor, hence I only reviewed myself. But what SQC also suggested is you may engage with the external engagement quality control reviewer, which is more effective. In fact, which is more your firm qualities also will increase. External engagement quality control reviewer means what? Yes, you are a sole proprietor. You may engage with another sole proprietor who is your friend or whoever it may be. Okay, here there is no independence, etc. So he will review your work, you will review his work. So then he is known as what? Engagement quality, external engagement quality control review. Or otherwise, you can claim exemption that I am a sole proprietor, I myself only reviewed. Okay, a proper normal documentation should be maintained. I done EQCR myself only. Okay, SQC1 is permitting you only become the what called quality partner. If PU applies for application April 26, from which date UDIN list has to be given? If it is from April 1st onwards, if you are making application, then our review period will become 23 April 1st to 26 March 31st. So that a day before whatever the UDIN generated also has to be included now. When you are applying for April 1st, 2026 means what? The UDIN generated till 31st March 2026 has to be included. So immediately preceding 3 financial. One not legal question and practical question has been given. There are two CA partners. One partner has forcibly taken the client of his own partner, etc. And another partner is not sharing the information. Please pay attention here. This legally I don't have the answer, but as per the whatever the union and exit, etc., all the records of the all partner has to be submitted. Okay, if at all he mentioned that some partner information is not given, then the same may be raised as a objection, because when the entire UDINs has not been submitted, first reviewer may object, the second board may not issue the certificate also, because the entire list is not covered means what? Something. Okay, thank you for giving this opportunity once again to Hyderabad Chartered Accountant Society, and thank you for all chartered accountants who are presented and have been shared your views also. Okay, and I am giving my WhatsApp number also and mail ID whenever you have any information, etc.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your valuable knowledge and experience with the practical examples and also for patiently answering all the questions. I also thank all the participants for joining and your active engagement. Uh, Sir, they're asking if you will be sharing the PPT in the group.
Sure, sure, I will share it.
Okay, so PPT will be shared in the group. Uh, Thank you, sir. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all.